Did you know that the Hebrew days do not start at midnight? Let me explain it to you. Unlike Western culture, where the days begin at midnight, the Hebrew days begin at every dusk. And this has a biblical reason, since the creator of the universe was creating the days of creation. At the end of each day, he would pronounce the phrase, "There was evening and there was morning one day." And so, with each of the days, here we leave you some verses that you can read and study. This is the reason why the people of Israel celebrate most of the holidays at dusk. For example, Shabbat. Shabbat begins on Friday afternoon, and it goes until nightfall on Saturday. This is what we know as the seventh day of creation. Taking this into account, we can understand that the first day of the week in Hebrew culture begins on Saturday night. In the scriptures, there are verses that, because the Hebrew context is unknown, can be taken out of context, leading into misunderstandings. Let's read the next verse. On the first day of the week, when the disciples were gathered to break bread, Paul taught them, having to leave the next day, and he prolonged the speech until midnight. When we read that the disciples were gathered on the first day of the week, we could come to understand that they were gathered on Sunday morning, but this is not the case. When we Israelites celebrate Shabbat, we have two very special moments, on Friday night and Saturday night. On Friday night, we have a special dinner where we invite friends and family. We break breaded bread or challah, and we drink wine. Saturday night, we have a special event called the Aftalah, or closing of Shabbat, where we gather in the congregation, break bread, and distribute to the congregants. In all synagogues and congregations on the planet, they do this every Friday night and Saturday night, understanding that every Friday night begins Shabbat until the next night, that is Saturday night, where Shabbat ends. In this verse from the book of Acts, we see that Paul had only gone to celebrate the Feast of Unleavened Bread and to break bread with the disciples at the close of Shabbat. And he extended his speech the same night until midnight, because the next day he was leaving on a trip to another city. This verse cannot be used as a replacement for Shabbat on a Sunday.